Friends, colleagues and listeners, here we are. We've got another podcast for you today, and it's a gentleman that probably doesn't really need much of an introduction, but I'm going to give him one anyhow. So the gentleman I'm talking about is Lothar Moehle, and he's a man with new challenges ahead. But his official title that we all know and loved him for was the Executive Director at Cargo IQ. Lothar, lovely to have you on board, sir.
Thank you very much, Chris. Thanks for the opportunity.
All right. When I seen your face pop up, I said to you, my God, you look very relaxed. You look as though you've had years knocked off you, mate. Either that or you're using fantastic moisturising cream.
No, I'm not one of those guys. It has to do with the introduction you used, challenge ahead. My challenge is to get used to the private life and not being under dictatorship of the diary any longer. So that surely helps to look a little bit more relaxed and to be relaxed. And that's what's all about. That's my new challenge.
Good on you. And I'm pretty sure you'll achieve that. And I understand what you're saying, because it's sometimes it's such a burden to be a servant to the schedule. And then when you've got the freedom, you just got to make sure you make the most of it. So listen, what I'd like to ask you now, obviously you've recently changed track and you've retired. But what I'd like to say to you, in all the 27 years you've been involved, in the last 2.5 as executive director, what would you say now, looking back, have been the big successes of the program, the initiative, where it all started and where it ended up, and how it transcended along that journey?
Right. I have to go back to why Cargo 2000, the predecessor of Cargo IQ, was founded, which was a lot of, or quite a large number of important shippers. They made it well known to the airlines and forwarders at that time by saying, hey guys, we compare your traditional services to those of the integrators.
Yeah.
And your service is not good enough. Deadlines are not being kept, as in particular promised date of deliveries. Often the final bill looks different than the quotation.
Yeah.
And overall, we have the impression quality is not up to scratch. That was the reason why airlines and forwarders got together and realized, A, shippers are unhappy, and B, we have to do something if we don't want to lose more business. And the solution was then, also the realization was then, that airlines and forwarders have to work closely together, because one party alone in the transportation chain won't be able to change everything. So that was the reason why Cargo IQ was founded. And over the years, the organization as such grew.
Yeah.
Not only in respect of members, but also in respect of stakeholders. We invited ground handlers to become part of it. We invited IT providers to become part of it. Road feeder service operators are involved, and so are actually airports as well. Because let's face it, an airline has an airplane, and the plane have the tendency to start on an airport and land on an airport. So they are part of the transportation chain. So that was the first reason and the realization we have to do something. And one of the first major documents was the so-called Master Operating Plan, which is describing the ideal way how a cargo should move from A to B. Over the years, the Master Operating Plan has been improved, like the typical quality approach.
Yeah.
But it also has been handed over to IATA, and IATA adopted that document as one of the major instruments and documentation for the entire air cargo industry, which was on one side a validation of the good work Cargo 2000 had managed to do.
Yeah.
At the same time, it's also the foundation of many other documents IATA has been working on in the last 10 years. So that is one of the success stories of Cargo IQ. Secondly, through initially we call it cycle control framework. Nowadays it's just CDMP, which stands for Cargo Data Management Platform.
Yeah.
We enabled stakeholders to plan a shipment and to measure against the plan, which is then for the first time that quality in the air cargo industry was be able to be measured rather than having a gut feeling, very much depending on how good the sleep of the shipper was in the previous evening,
Yeah.
whether he had a good mood or no, not so good mood. We were able to objectively describe and show how good the quality was. Based on that, we then introduce also a very strict quality control or quality management network, which our members are being. I still use our members.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's hard to forget, mate. Yeah.
Yeah. So the members of Cargo IQ are able to introduce, respectively adopt, so that the quality management system can be independently objectively be validated by an external auditor.
Yeah.
So I guess these three main points are the
Yeah.
success stories of Cargo IQ.
Very good. Now, just elaborating on that, okay, and I'm more than aware, as you know, the development, the logic behind it, the way it was taken on board by IATA and supported by other initiatives. I mean, it makes an awful lot of sense, and the amount of people that have gone through the various committees and panels and supported it as well, it's very credible. Now, people nowadays are now talking again about having standardization and everything being the same. So even with these guidelines, Lothar, and you know about triggers and in the early days especially, people could assume a certain percentage of the business, and there was various variances on the triggers. But if it's to be fully accepted, and now this talk about the business needs more standardization. One is the technical side and the measure side, isn't it? And then the other side is the culture and the real focus on customer centricity. Now, one will benefit from the other, and the other will improve the other. Do you agree? Do you agree that that's where it needs to modify now? How would you, if you had a magic wand now, if you wanted to wave it and say, look, this is how I'd like to see things move forward in the next 2 to 5 years, what would those areas be?
Well, if you compare Cargo IQ having created an operational standard, very much relying on information exchange, that is still the case. But when people talk about standardization nowadays, very often they just think about IT.
Yeah.
Yes, IT needs to be standardized and has to be standardized, but the operational processes are still very important because there are human beings involved picking up either by hand or by forklift or whatever a pallet of cargo, and that has to be moved. You cannot do this necessarily only through IT.
Yeah.
So standardization in IT is very much required, and I believe that the IATA One Record model as one way to exchange the information and the data required along the transportation chain is the right way to go forward. Cargo IQ has always supported that and has also created the possibility for the members to use One Record as, if you see that as a cloud. So the Cargo IQ members are ready for that. Overall, it is a worldwide or global requirement also that, for example, for security purpose, and you might remember that I'm also that I was an ACC3 validator.
Yeah.
That was also very important that all security authorities around the world use the same methods to make sure that there is no bomb on board. The same applies for customs authorities. It would be very much appreciated when the customs authorities globally use the same data requirements rather than always deviating from what
Yeah.
the world, WCO has recommended, to make sure that these standardization lead to higher productivity and less confusion.
Yeah.
That would be my magic wand. And if I swing the magic wand again, I would like to have all stakeholders apply these IT standards and operational standards uh, within the next six months, and then we have achieved a lot.
Exactly, exactly, and again, this standardization. I mean, it's so important. But do you think, or do you consider that one of the areas that could be improved upon is the level of learning that's given to people, when they come into the business, and even those that are in the business, because there's still an awful lot of ignorance or a lack of transparency when it comes to the basic measurement principles within the business from the people who are actually having feet on ground and performing the functions.
Yes, training is required. I mean, I went through an old school. As you might know, more details about the German apprenticeship
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
system. I was for period of 3 years an apprentice in a forwarding company, and you learn a lot. You learn not only to move cargo, but also why are banks involved in business transaction with letter of credit and so on? Why is it important to have a transport insurance and all this
yeah,
stuff? So it's not only streamlining on one particular function, it's a wider industry knowledge you gain. And that is certainly something a lot of people should enjoy. And yes, university degrees are also very important, no doubt about. But on the other side, even as a university graduate, it doesn't help, it doesn't harm to spend maybe 2 3 months on the ground in an airport operation, let's say with a ground handler,
yeah.
to see what's happening there. Why is it important to check on DGR documentation and so on?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think there's no substitute for feet on ground, and there's no substitute from learning from the bottom up.
Absolutely.
There's a balance, because it's like anything. It's a marriage, and there's two sides of the coin and all those other lovely sayings. But I think the practical performance side now is something that the industry needs to focus on moving forward, because of all the other external pressures that we're all more aware of now post COVID. So yeah, right, now a little bit about yourself, my friend. So what's on the bucket list?
What's on the bucket list? Well, that is very high on the bucket list is my lovely wife and I. We want to relocate somewhere to the Baltic Sea.
Ah, nice
And
one.
yes, and that was one of the reasons why the last week we spent up there a little bit house hunting. We haven't found anything. Why we found some interesting objects, but no decision has been made. So this will be continuing this house search. At the same time, we also want to go for an extended holiday later on in this year to down under,
Yeah,
Australia and New Zealand. We want
nice.
to fulfill a lifelong dream to spend some time in Australia to learn more about the culture there, and to see an interesting country. So that these are the immediate plans for the rest of this year.
Brilliant. And whereabouts have you targeted in the Baltics?
Well, I keep on saying that I'm very flexible. For me, the Baltic Sea, obviously, we don't want to be in the sea, we want to be at the coast. And the coast starts for me with the southern edge of Denmark up to the western area of Poland.
Yeah,
Somewhere there, we would like to find a nice house.
that's a pretty big area, mate. A pretty big area.
Yes, that's a good advantage that we are not fixed on one particular village or town,
Yeah.
so we can be flexible into where we go. We just want to find on one side a nice quiet place where we can relax and retire nicely with a little garden, because I always kept saying that I would like to be able to walk around my house. But on the other side, we also don't want to be away from cultural things
Yeah,
like
yeah.
going to a theater or to a cinema, restaurants, maybe the one or the other pub nearby would be also nice to have.
Good man. Good man. Listen, Lothar, well done, my friend. You left your footprint, and good luck with everything that you do moving forward.
Thank you very
And
much, Chris.
I'm pretty sure, well, please God, we'll keep in touch. And the next time I see you, you'll look even better, mate.
And you, and
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Chris.
All the best, Lothar. Good luck.
Thank you. Take
Cheers
care.
now.